Do you think speaking up always wins? That defending yourself makes you stronger? That confronting disrespect restores your dignity? What if I told you that the moment you react, you've already lost? Silence is not weakness. Silence is the weapon most people are too afraid to use. Because when you stay silent in the face of disrespect, something strange happens. The person who disrespected you starts to feel it, the weight of your silence, the void of your reaction. And in that void, fear begins to grow. Today, I'm going to show you how silence becomes your most devastating form of power. This is not about being passive. This is not about accepting abuse. This is about understanding the psychology of dominance and how the absence of your reaction can be more powerful than any words you could ever speak. Niccolò Machiavelli didn't just write about kings and wars. He wrote about human behavior under pressure. He observed courts, watched betrayals unfold, and studied how power shifted between men. And he noticed something that most people miss. Those who screamed the loudest were always the first to fall. Not because they were wrong, but because they revealed too much. Machiavelli understood something most people never will. The most dangerous person in the room is not the one who argues. It's the one who watches, the one who stays calm, the one whose silence makes everyone else uncomfortable. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, once wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." In other words, when someone disrespects you, the strongest move is not to mirror their chaos. It's to remain untouchable, to stay so far above their level that their words cannot even reach you. Throughout history, the most powerful leaders were not the ones who reacted to every insult. They were the ones who let their silence do the talking. They understood that silence is not avoidance. Silence is control. Now let me be clear. I'm not telling you to be passive. I'm not telling you to accept abuse. I'm not saying you should become a doormat or let people walk all over you without consequences. What I'm showing you is this: there is a fundamental difference between reacting and responding. Reacting is emotional, impulsive, and often regrettable. Responding is strategic, calculated, and powerful. When you react immediately, you give the other person exactly what they want: attention, energy, validation, proof that they got under your skin, proof that they have power over you. But when you stay silent, when you give them nothing, that's when the power shifts. Because now they're the ones left wondering. They're the ones feeling exposed. They're the ones who lose control. This is not about being cold for the sake of being cold. This is not about playing games. This is about being calculated. This is about understanding that in the game of power, the person who controls their emotions controls the outcome. Let's begin. Truth number 1, the reaction trap. Think about the last time someone disrespected you. Maybe they insulted you in front of others. Maybe they dismissed your ideas in a meeting. Maybe they made a passive-aggressive comment designed to hurt you. Maybe they tested your boundaries just to see if you'd fight back. And what did you do? You probably said something. You defended yourself. You corrected them. You explained your position. You tried to restore your image in front of everyone watching. But here's the truth: most people never realize the moment you react, you've fallen into the trap. Disrespect is bait. It's designed to pull you into chaos. The person who disrespects you wants to see you lose composure. They want to see you scramble. They want to see you become emotional, defensive, and vulnerable. They want to feel that they have power over your emotions. And when you react, you confirm it. You prove to them, and to everyone watching, that they got to you, that they won. Let me give you an example. Imagine a colleague publicly criticizes your work in a meeting. Everyone's watching. Your heart starts racing. Your face gets hot. You feel the immediate urge to defend yourself, to explain, to prove them wrong, to show everyone that you're competent. But what if you didn't? What if you just looked at them, calmly, held eye contact for 2 seconds, said nothing, and then moved on to the next agenda item? Here's what happens. The room doesn't fill with your justifications. It fills with their awkwardness. Suddenly, their disrespect feels heavier, because there's no reaction to absorb it. It just hangs there in the air. Exposed, naked, uncomfortable. The other people in the room start to feel it too. They start thinking, why isn't he defending himself? Is he that confident? Does he know something we don't? Is he planning something? Your silence creates questions, and questions create doubt. Doubt in the person who disrespected you, and doubt in everyone who witnessed it. Machiavelli once wrote, Never attempt to win by force what can be won by deception. In this case, the deception is your silence. It makes them think you're unfazed, that you're above it, that their words have no power over you, and in their mind, that makes you dangerous. Because if you don't care about their disrespect, what else don't you care about? What else can't they use to control you? So here's your first affirmation. Drop this in the comments, or say it out loud right now. I control my reactions. I do not feed chaos. I rise above the noise. Truth number 2, silence as psychological pressure. Most people think silence is emptiness. They think it means you have nothing to say, that you're weak, that you're defeated. But silence is actually the heaviest thing you can give someone. It's weight without words. It's presence without validation. When you stay silent after being disrespected, you create what psychologists call cognitive dissonance. The other person expects a reaction. They expect drama. They expect you to fight back, to defend yourself, to give them the satisfaction of knowing they affected you. But when you don't, their brain doesn't know what to do. The pattern they expected is broken. And humans hate broken patterns. It creates anxiety, uncertainty, fear. They start filling the silence with their own doubts. Did I go too far? Are they planning something? Why aren't they responding? Do they not care? Or do they care too much? Are they going to retaliate later? Did I just make an enemy? This is where fear enters, because silence doesn't give answers. It only gives space for imagination. And imagination, especially when fueled by guilt or insecurity, is almost always worse than reality. Let me tell you a story. A man once worked under a manager who constantly belittled him in front of the team. Every meeting there would be some sarcastic comment, some dismissive remark, some subtle way of making him look incompetent in front of his peers. For months he tried to defend himself. He explained his reasoning. He corrected the misrepresentations. He justified his decisions. But nothing changed. If anything, the disrespect got worse, because the manager had found his button and he kept pressing it. Then one day, after reading Stoic philosophy, he decided to try something different. He decided to stop feeding the beast. The next time his manager made a sarcastic comment in front of the team, he didn't argue. He didn't explain. He didn't even show emotion. He just looked at him calmly, paused for 3 full seconds, and then went back to his work as if nothing had happened. The manager, clearly confused by the lack of reaction, tried again the next day. Another jab, another attempt to get under his skin. Same response, silence, no emotion, no explanation, just calm, controlled detachment. By the 3rd day, something interesting happened. The manager's comments became less frequent. By the end of the week, they had almost stopped entirely. Within 2 weeks, they stopped completely. Why? Because the silence removed the reward. There was no reaction, no fuel, no validation, no proof that the disrespect was working. And in that silence, the man became untouchable. He didn't win by fighting. He won by refusing to play the game. Carl Jung once said, "Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people." When you stay silent, you force the other person to confront their own darkness, their insecurity, their need for attention, their fear of being irrelevant, their own internal chaos. And that's terrifying, because most people spend their entire lives running from their own darkness. When you force them to sit with it, when you don't give them the distraction of your reaction, they have to face themselves. And they hate it. Here's your second affirmation: my silence is my power. I do not justify myself to those beneath my energy. I do not explain myself to those who are committed to misunderstanding me. Truth number 3, the coldness command. There's a reason why cold people are feared. It's not because they're cruel. It's not because they're mean. It's because they're unpredictable. When you react emotionally, people can read you like a book. They know what makes you angry. They know what makes you defensive. They know what makes you vulnerable. They know your triggers, your weaknesses, your soft spots. And once they know these things, they know how to control you. But when you stay silent and cold, you become unreadable. You become a mystery. You become a closed book in a world where everyone else is an open diary. And what people can't read, they fear. What they can't predict, they respect. This is what Machiavelli called the appearance of severity. You don't have to be harsh. You don't have to punish. You don't have to be cruel. You just have to remain emotionally unavailable to those who disrespect you. Let me give you a practical example from the modern world. Imagine someone insults you in a group chat. Maybe it's a work channel, maybe it's a friend group, maybe it's social media. The insult is public, everyone can see it. Everyone's waiting to see how you'll respond. They expect you to defend yourself, to clap back with a witty comeback, to show that you're hurt but trying to hide it, to engage in the drama. Instead, you read the message. You don't reply. You don't react. You don't even leave the group. You just move on. You continue posting about other things. You act as if the insult never happened. Hours pass, then a day, then 2 days. The person who insulted you starts to feel it. They check the chat repeatedly. They wonder if you saw it. They start to second-guess themselves. Did I go too far? Why aren't they responding? Are they ignoring me? Do they think I'm not worth a response? Their insult is now just sitting there unanswered, looking more and more desperate with each passing hour. And in that silence, you didn't just win. You made them lose respect for themselves. Because here's the thing, when you respond to an insult, you validate it. You give it importance. You show that it affected you. But when you ignore it completely, you communicate something far more devastating. You are beneath my notice. You are not worth my time. You are irrelevant. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote, "The snake which cannot cast its skin has to die. As well the minds which are prevented from changing their opinions, they cease to be mine." When you refuse to react, you force others to change. Not you, them. They have to change their approach. They have to change their tactics. They have to change their entire strategy for dealing with you. Because what worked on everyone else doesn't work on you. Silence is not passive. Silence is a command. It tells the other person, you are not worth my energy. You are not worth my words. You are not worth my emotional investment. And that, my friend, is the most devastating thing you can communicate without saying a single word. Here's your third affirmation. I am cold to those who disrespect me. I do not warm up to prove myself. I do not explain my worth to those who cannot see it. Truth number 4. The image of authority. People respect what they cannot touch, what they cannot break, what they cannot manipulate, what they cannot control. When you stay silent in the face of disrespect, you build an image. An image of someone who is in control. Someone who doesn't need to defend themselves because they know their value. Someone who is so secure in their position that external opinions don't shake them. This is what Machiavelli meant when he said, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." Now let me clarify something important here. I'm not saying you should be cruel. I'm not saying you should be heartless. I'm not saying you should be a tyrant. What I'm saying is this: you should be respected. And respect comes from boundaries, not explanations. Respect comes from consistency, not justification. Respect comes from the image you project, not the words you speak. Think about the most powerful people you know. Not the loudest, not the most aggressive, but the most powerful. The ones who command respect when they walk into a room. Do they argue with everyone who disrespects them? Do they defend every criticism? Do they explain themselves endlessly to people who don't matter? No, they simply withdraw. They remove access. They let their silence speak volumes. They let their actions demonstrate their value rather than their words. Here's a modern example. Imagine a CEO who gets publicly criticized on social media. Some keyboard warrior writes a long thread attacking his business decisions, his character, his leadership style. The post goes viral. Thousands of people are commenting. The media picks it up. What does the CEO do? Instead of responding with a long thread defending himself, instead of getting into a public argument, instead of trying to change the minds of people who are already committed to hating him, he posts nothing. He continues his work. He shows up to the office. He leads his team. He makes decisions. He produces results. What happens? The criticism loses power because there's no reaction to feed it. There's no drama to sustain it. The CEO's silence communicates something far more powerful than any defense could. Your opinion doesn't define me. Your words don't shake me. Your criticism doesn't change my path. Within days, people move on to the next outrage. The criticism fades, but the CEO's image remains intact. Why? Because he didn't lower himself to the level of his critics. Robert Greene wrote in the 48 Laws of Power, "When you are trying to impress people with words, the more you say, the more common you appear, and the less in control." Think about that. Every word you speak in defense of yourself makes you seem more desperate. Every explanation makes you seem more insecure. Every justification makes you seem less confident. But silence makes you rare. Silence makes you mysterious. Silence makes you unreachable. Your silence protects your image. It creates an aura of authority. It makes people wonder about you instead of dismissing you. In a world where everyone is constantly explaining themselves, constantly justifying their existence, constantly seeking validation, silence makes you a king. Here's your fourth affirmation. I protect my image through silence. I do not lower myself to justify who I am. I do not explain my value to those who cannot comprehend it. Truth number 5, strategic detachment. Now here's where most people get confused. They think staying silent means staying silent forever, that you never respond, that you just accept everything, that you become a punching bag with no voice. That's not what I'm saying at all. Strategic silence means you choose when and how to respond. You don't react in the moment. You don't respond out of emotion. You don't speak out of anger or hurt or the need to be validated. You respond when you're in control, when you've had time to think, when the timing is right, when the impact is maximum, when your words will have actual power rather than just being noise. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. He didn't say never speak. He said speak only when your words have weight, when they can change the outcome, when they can shift the power dynamic in your favor. Let me give you an example of how this works in practice. Someone disrespects you in a meeting. They question your competence in front of your peers. They try to undermine your authority. You stay silent in the moment. You don't defend yourself. You don't argue. You just let their words hang in the air. But then days later, in a private conversation with leadership, you calmly present facts that expose their incompetence. You show data that proves your point. You demonstrate your value without emotion, without drama, without revenge. Just truth delivered with precision at the right time to the right people. That's strategic silence. You didn't react in the heat of the moment. You responded when it mattered, and you did it in a way that protected your power and exposed their weakness. This is what Sun Tzu meant when he wrote, "In the midst of chaos there is also opportunity. The person who disrespected you created chaos. But you, through silence, turned that chaos into an opportunity to elevate yourself." Here's the key principle. Silence buys you time. Time to think clearly. Time to observe patterns. Time to plan your next move. Time to see the bigger picture. Time to understand the real dynamics at play. And in that time, you become dangerous. Not in a violent way, not in a cruel way, but in a strategic way. Because while they think you're weak, you're actually calculating. While they think you're defeated, you're actually preparing. While they think they won the battle, you're positioning yourself to win the war. Let me give you another example. A business partner betrays you. They spread rumors behind your back. They try to turn clients against you. They disrespect you privately and publicly. Your first instinct is to call them out, to expose them, to defend your reputation immediately. But what if you waited? What if you stayed silent, gathered evidence, documented everything, and then 6 months later, when they least expect it, you present a clear case that not only exposes their behavior, but also positions you as the professional who took the high road? That strategic detachment. You didn't react. You didn't engage in mudslinging. You didn't lower yourself to their level. You just quietly collected the facts and then responded with devastating precision when the time was right. Arthur Schopenhauer once said, "Talent hits a target no one else can hit. Genius hits a target no one else can see." Silence allows you to see the target others miss. It gives you perspective. It gives you clarity. It allows you to move with precision, not impulse, with strategy, not emotion. Most people react immediately because they're afraid of looking weak, afraid of being disrespected, afraid of losing face, afraid of what others will think. But that fear makes them predictable, and predictable people are easy to manipulate. When you master strategic silence, you become unpredictable. You become someone who cannot be baited, someone who cannot be controlled, someone who plays the long game instead of seeking short-term validation. Here's your fifth affirmation. I respond with strategy, not emotion. I choose my battles with precision. I speak when my words have power, not when my ego needs validation. Truth number 6. The energy preservation principle. Here's something most people never consider. Every time you react to disrespect, you're giving away your energy, your mental energy, your emotional energy, your creative energy, your life force. Think about it. How many hours have you wasted replaying conversations in your mind, rehearsing what you should have said, planning your comeback, feeling angry, hurt, or frustrated? That's energy you could have used to build something, to create something, to improve yourself, to move forward. When someone disrespects you and you react, they're not just winning the immediate interaction. They're stealing your time. They're occupying space in your mind, rent-free. They're draining resources you could be investing in your goals, your dreams, your purpose. This is the hidden cost of reaction that nobody talks about. It's not just about that one moment. It's about all the moments after. The replaying, the ruminating, the plotting revenge, the seeking validation from others about who was right. All of that is wasted energy. But when you stay silent, when you let it go, you preserve that energy. You redirect it toward things that actually matter. You invest it in yourself, rather than giving it away to people who don't deserve it. Lao Tzu, the ancient Chinese philosopher, wrote, "Those who know do not speak. Those who speak do not know." Part of what he meant was that true power understands the value of conservation. Conservation of words, conservation of energy, conservation of emotional investment. Let me give you a practical framework. Every time someone disrespects you, ask yourself 3 questions before you respond. 1. Will responding to this person change anything meaningful in my life? 2. Will this matter in a week, a month, or a year? 3. Is this person worth my energy, my time, and my peace? If the answer to any of these questions is no, then stay silent. Not because you're weak, but because you're wise enough to know that some battles aren't worth fighting, that some people aren't worth your words, that your energy is precious and should be invested strategically. Think of your energy like money. Would you give $100 to someone who insulted you? Would you hand over your wallet to someone who disrespected you? Of course not. So why would you give them something even more valuable? Your mental and emotional energy, your peace of mind, your focus and clarity. When you react, you're essentially paying them with your energy. You're rewarding their disrespect with your attention. You're making them more important than they deserve to be. But when you stay silent, you're saying, my energy is too valuable to waste on you. My peace is too important to disturb over your words. My focus is too precious to divert toward your negativity. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. That's maturity. That's power. Here's another way to think about it. Imagine you have a jar of marbles. Each marble represents your daily energy. Every time you react to disrespect, you're taking marbles out of your jar and putting them in someone else's jar. At the end of the day, who has more marbles? Who has more energy to invest in their goals, their relationships, their growth? The person who reacted all day has an empty jar. They're exhausted, drained, defeated. But the person who stayed silent, who preserved their energy, they still have a full jar. They still have resources. They still have power. This is why silence is not just about the immediate interaction. It's about the long game. It's about who you become over time. It's about whether you're spending your life reacting to others or creating your own reality. Every master of power throughout history understood this principle. They understood that attention is currency, that energy is wealth, that focus is power, and they refused to spend these resources on people who didn't deserve them. Here's your 6th affirmation. I protect my energy like I protect my life. I do not waste my power on people who do not matter. I invest my focus in my growth, not in others' opinions. Let me tell you about someone I once knew. A woman who worked in a highly competitive corporate environment. She was talented, ambitious, hardworking, and respected by many in her field. She had climbed the corporate ladder through skill and dedication. But there was one colleague who envied her success. This colleague, let's call her Sarah, couldn't stand seeing someone else shine. So Sarah made it her mission to undermine this woman at every opportunity. In meetings, Sarah would constantly interrupt her presentations. She would make passive-aggressive comments questioning her decisions. She would send emails with subtle digs disguised as helpful feedback. She would spread rumors about her behind her back. She would try to take credit for her ideas. For months, the woman tried to defend herself. She corrected Sarah's lies. She explained her intentions. She tried to win the approval of others. She sent long emails clarifying misunderstandings. She spent hours in one-on-one meetings trying to repair the relationship. But the disrespect continued. In fact, it got worse. Because Sarah had found her buttons and she kept pressing them. The woman was exhausted, frustrated, angry. She felt like she was losing her mind. She was spending more energy managing Sarah's behavior than actually doing her job. Then one day, after a particularly brutal meeting where Sarah had publicly questioned her leadership, she had an epiphany. She realized something by reacting, by defending herself. By engaging with Sarah's behavior, she was actually feeding it. She was giving Sarah exactly what she wanted. Attention, drama, proof that she had power. So she decided to try something radical. She decided to stop completely. The next time Sarah made a passive-aggressive comment in a meeting, she didn't respond. She didn't defend. She didn't even look bothered. She simply acknowledged Sarah's input with a neutral "Thank you for your perspective," and moved on. Sarah, clearly confused by the lack of reaction, tried harder. More comments, more jabs, more attempts to get under her skin, but still nothing. No emotion, no defense, no engagement. At first, it was incredibly difficult. Every cell in her body wanted to defend herself. Her ego screamed at her to fight back, but she held firm. Over the next few weeks, something remarkable started to happen. The silence made Sarah's behavior increasingly obvious. Without a reaction to absorb it, without drama to justify it, Sarah's disrespect just hung in the air, naked and exposed. Other people in meetings started to notice. They started seeing the pattern. They started recognizing Sarah's behavior for what it was: insecurity, dressed up as criticism. The woman, meanwhile, just focused on her work. She delivered results. She led her team. She stayed professional and calm. Within a month, leadership noticed something too. Not because the woman complained, not because she played politics, but because her silence created contrast. Her calm professionalism made Sarah's chaos visible. 3 months later, Sarah was moved to another department. Not because the woman fought back, not because she defended herself, but because she stayed silent, protected her energy, and let the disrespect expose itself. A year after that, the woman was promoted to a senior leadership position. And Sarah, still stuck in the same level, still bitter, still unable to understand why attacking others never elevated her. That's the power of silence. It doesn't fight, it reveals. It doesn't argue, it exposes. It doesn't defend, it wins. Let me summarize the 6 truths we've covered today, because these principles will change your life if you actually apply them. Truth number 1, the reaction trap. When you react to disrespect, you fall into their game. You give them the power they're seeking. Silence keeps you above it. Silence protects your energy. Truth number 2, silence as psychological pressure. Your silence creates doubt, discomfort, and fear in the other person. It forces them to confront their own darkness. It makes them question themselves instead of attacking you. Truth number 3, the coldness command. Staying emotionally unavailable to those who disrespect you makes you unreadable, unpredictable, and powerful. What people can't read, they fear. What they can't control, they respect. Truth number 4, the image of authority. Silence protects your reputation and makes you respected. It creates an aura of control and confidence. In a world where everyone is constantly explaining themselves, silence makes you rare. Truth number 5, strategic detachment. You don't stay silent forever. You respond when it's strategic, not emotional. You speak when your words have power, not when your ego needs validation. Truth number 6, the energy preservation principle. Every reaction costs you energy. Silence preserves your power and allows you to invest it in what truly matters. Here's the philosophy behind all of this: power is not loud. Power is quiet. Power is controlled. Power is patient. Power knows when to speak and when to hold back. Machiavelli said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are." When you stay silent, you control what people see. You control the narrative. You become a mystery. And mystery is the foundation of respect and fear. So the next time someone disrespects you, remember this: don't rush to defend yourself. Don't explain. Don't justify. Don't feed their need for drama. Just stay silent. Let them feel the weight of their own words. Let them wonder. Let them doubt. Let them fear the consequences of their actions without you having to do anything. Because in that silence, you're not weak, you're not defeated, you're not passive, you're calculating, you're observing, you're waiting for the right moment to respond if you even need to respond at all. Now, here's my challenge to you, and I want you to take this seriously because this is how you actually integrate these principles into your life. The next time someone disrespects you, I want you to practice strategic silence. I don't care if it's a coworker who undermines you in a meeting. I don't care if it's a family member who criticizes your choices. I don't care if it's a stranger online who attacks you. I don't care if it's a friend who betrays your trust. I want you to resist the urge to react immediately. Take a breath, count to 10, feel the emotion rising in your body, and instead of expressing it outwardly, let it pass through you. Stay calm, stay cold, stay silent, and then I want you to observe. This is crucial. Don't just stay silent and stew in your anger. Observe what happens when you don't react. Watch how they react. Watch how they try to pull you back into the chaos. Watch how they escalate their disrespect when you don't give them the satisfaction of a reaction. Watch how uncomfortable they become when you don't give them what they want. Watch how other people perceive the situation. Watch how your silence changes the dynamic in the room. This is not easy. I'm not going to pretend it is. Your ego will scream at you to defend yourself. Your emotions will beg you to respond. Your pride will tell you that staying silent makes you look weak. But that's exactly why this is powerful, because most people can't do it. Most people need to react. Most people need to defend themselves. Most people need to be seen and heard and validated. But you're different. You're learning the language of power. And power doesn't beg for attention. Power doesn't need validation from others. Power withdraws when disrespected. Power waits for the strategic moment. Power chooses its battles. So here's the ultimate question. Will you keep reacting like everyone else? Will you keep falling into the trap? Will you keep giving your power away to people who disrespect you? Or will you master the art of strategic silence and become untouchable? The choice is yours. But if you choose silence, you choose power. If you choose patience, you choose control. If you choose strategy over emotion, you choose to win. If this video opened your eyes to the power of silence, if you felt these truths resonate with something deep inside you, then I need you to do 3 things right now. First, drop your favorite affirmation from this video in the comments. Let me know which truth hit you the hardest. Was it the reaction trap? Was it silence as psychological pressure? Was it the coldness command? Was it the energy preservation principle? Let me know because I read every single comment and I want to know what resonated with you. Second, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications because this is not just content, this is not entertainment, this is a masterclass in power psychology. This is education that can change your life if you actually apply it. And if you're serious about mastering yourself, about understanding human nature, about gaining real power in your life, you need to be here for every video. Third, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. We all know someone who gets disrespected and doesn't know how to handle it. Someone who reacts emotionally and makes things worse. Someone who could benefit from understanding these principles. Send this to them. You might change their life. Remember, silence is not weakness. Silence is strategy. Silence is power. Silence is the weapon that most people are too afraid to use because they're addicted to the temporary satisfaction of reacting. But you're not most people. You're someone who understands that real power is quiet, controlled, and strategic. So stay silent when others would speak. Stay calm when others would panic. Stay cold when others would burn with emotion. And watch as they begin to fear the power of your presence. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, master your silence and master your power.